All right, gentlemen. We're going to talk about the bureaucracy now. So let's get this up. Um, Control of the bureaucracy is really um, between two federal entities. The the president, okay, and Congress. So the president can appoint people to the bureaucratic agencies. The president can use executive orders to tell bureaucratic agencies what to do, um, whereas Congress controls the budget of the agencies. Okay, Congress can investigate the agencies. Congress creates laws that the agencies have to follow. Okay, so both the president and Congress, have control over the bureaucracy. Every federal agency has a state agency for the most part. Um, so, like for instance, FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Well, there's a MEMA, there's a Maryland Emergency Management Agency. Okay, so there's always for pretty much every time you have a federal agency, there's a state agency counterpart to work with that. We have a litigious society. Litigious refers to lawsuits. All right, we like spill hot coffee on yourself, sue McDonald's. Okay, because it was too hot. So why are there so many forms to fill out for government agencies? Okay, why are there so many steps that need to be taken to do simple things? And why? Because of lawsuits. All of those things are set up to protect against lawsuits. Okay, so that's why. So we have this thing called red tape. Okay, that's all of the things down here. Yeah, so red tape is all of the rules and regulations that agencies have to follow. Okay. The United States government regulates privately owned enterprises more than most countries. Okay. Think about all of the guidelines that you have to that um, businesses have to follow because of OSHA, Organizational Safety and Health, Occupational Safety and Health Agency. Okay. We have OSHA requirements. Okay. Think about how all the requirements in order to that we're seeing the FDA with these companies creating vaccines for the virus. Okay. US government regulates all that stuff. All right. So the United States is heavily involved in business regulations. Okay. The main source of power, okay, is discretionary authority. The main source of power for any federal agency is a two-word term. It's called discretionary authority. Discretionary authority, meaning the independence an agency has from Congress and the president. Okay? Discretionary authority is the independence an agency has from Congress and the president. All right. I always like to use this like if you're like the oldest child, you don't have a lot of discretionary authority because parents are on top of you. If you're like the third or fourth child, they've stopped caring. So you can do whatever the hell you want. All right. So the more wiggle room, the more leeway agency has to make its own rules and regulations, and then to enforce those rules and regulations, okay, that would be discretionary authority. Okay. The verb that we like to use with the bureaucracy is implement. So its main task, implement government policy. Its main task is to implement government policy. Okay? Congress passes a law, federal bureaucracy implements that. And there's two terms that we like to associate with that implementation. Quasi legislative, so QUASI, quasi, kinda. So quasi legislative, that's their ability to create their own rules and regulations. So the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, it has quasi legislative powers to create its own rules and regulations for what can and can't be put on the airwaves. Okay, that's quasi legislative. Quasi judicial, okay, is their ability to enforce those rules and regulations. So quasi legislative is creating the rules and regulations, quasi judicial is enforcing. So like you curse like on air, you're going to get fined by the FCC. Okay, that's their quasi judicial powers. Okay, so implement is the verb that we use. And they have quasi legislative powers and quasi judicial powers. Those are their main tasks. Okay. There's three historical events, all right, that have created our bureaucracy. Okay. One is the New Deal. Okay. A lot of agencies were created during the New Deal, all right, that we have today. All right. Next would be the Cold War. Right? Most of our defense agencies have been created because of dealing with Russia. Okay. And finally, 9/11. The shape of our bureaucracy has changed greatly because of 9/11. Because we added a new cabinet, we added Department of Homeland Security. All right. We've created way more rules and regulations because of that as well. Okay. Red tape, rules and regulations that agencies have to follow. And I mean, there's over five. I mean, it is huge. The federal bureaucracy is huge. Okay. And think about it, like pretty much everyone does business with the federal government. Like think of like if any of your parents work in like a contracting company, all right, you love getting government contracts because they're going to pay a lot, and you like, so you have these independent companies getting these government contracts, whether it be like painting a building or painting rooms or whatever. So like it's a lot of people working directly with the federal government. Okay. Iron triangles versus issue networks. Okay, so an iron triangle is this guy up here. Okay, there are three prongs to an iron triangle. All right, you have the bureaucratic agency, the congressional committee, and then interest groups. Okay, so bureaucratic agency, congressional committee, interest groups. And those three all are constantly in communication with each other about a specific policy. All right, so for instance, with if we wanted to do the iron triangle, okay, with the vaccine, okay, you have the FDA. All right, you have the congressional committees on health, and then you have like AMA, American Medical Association, and other lobby firms for like Pfizer, Purdue Pharma, all that stuff. They form the iron triangle. Okay. So the interest group tries to influence the congressional committee, who tries to, and then the congressional committee tells the agency what it can do. The agency uses its discretionary authority to implement the laws set forth by Congress. Okay. Is going to oversee what the issue, like the interest groups, care about. So that's how they're all connected. Okay. Now, more often than not, it's not as clean as that. So that's why you get like this issue network, okay, where it's not just one committee, it's not just one interest group, and it's not just one bureaucratic agency. Because everything's so large, you're going to have multiple bureaucratic agencies involved, multiple companies involved, and probably a couple different congressional committees on it. So that would be an issue network. Same kind of concept, just more, it's not a clean triangle because there are more uh, in more separate groups involved. Okay. All right, that is the end of the first video.